All right, looks like we're live. If anybody's with us right now, my name is Danny Kolker. I'll be the host along with your moderator, Sam Cook from Triathlon Research. And if anybody is with us now, we're about 15 minutes pre-show. Mark Allen is with us. Bobby McGee is with us, as well as I said, Sam Cook, our moderator. If anybody has any questions you want to throw out before we get rolling, which we will do in about 10 or 12 minutes, just go ahead and put them in the chat roll that's on the show page, and we'll
just introduce themselves, Danny. Let's just see where people are from.
Yeah, let's see who's in here. We've got 66 people online right now.
Say hey.
Let's see. John Paul Panglos Costa Rica wants to know, when does this start? I can answer that now.
15 minutes.
All right, looks like we're live. If anybody's with us right now, I better mute myself. Patrick Large is complaining that he's too tired to train tonight. Thought this was the next best thing.
It's working on mindset.
I don't know if this is the next best thing to training.
Well, what do you say, Mark?
Well, I think this is a first because I've never been on a live chat with Bobby, and I've met everybody here before, but I think it's a great place to hang out. If you're tired, best to just sit back, listen to what other folks have to say about things.
Yeah, I just saw a guy named Eric from Louisville who has a picture with some kind of dorky-looking snowmobile helmet on who says, "Hey, it's me, Eric from Louisville," saying, "Hey, y'all." I think y'all is one of those southern terms.
Yeah, Bobby, this is an English test for you. What is the plural of y'all?
Oh, I guess it's got to be y'alls.
It's all y'alls.
That's all y'all. Oh, yeah, you're right.
A little bit of southern trivia.
Very good. Very good.
All y'all funny.
That's there's a million different ways to say it down south. So
I bet, and I'm not from the south, so I don't even know if that's right what I said.
All y'alls is pretty good.
We've got Sean Kelly checking in from Newport News, Virginia. Newport News. Is that a town or is that a periodical? Sean?
It's a town. It's a military town over there.
Newport News, wow.
That's where all the ships are. So.
News to me.
Danny, I heard today that only nerds play with puns, so that labels us both.
Yes. I always love a good pun. Now I'm just really searching for a pun about puns, and I can't do
it. Danny, you're getting into stand-up too early.
No, too late, actually.
Done well, medium rare.
Let's see who else we got. We have
done well, medium rare. Wow, we're gonna have to meet over that.
Sean Kelly just verified. Yes, retired Army. As is our moderator, Sam Cook. You guys can exchange war stories.
Oh, I'm not retired. I just left. So.
AWOL? Go get them. MPs.
No, resigned. So.
Resigned. Let's see. We got Paul Holland from Montana. Just checked in. From Helena, which is the capital, right?
Yeah.
I was just in just about 30 miles north of Yellowstone for a week last week.
What were you doing there?
Have all y'all been to Montana? That's my first trip. I was blown away. It is absolutely an amazing place. There was
Well,
herds of buffalo and deer and elk and eagles and osprey and geese and cranes, and I mean, it was just full-on nature doing its thing. Really amazing.
What were you
that's
doing?
I was there for a retreat with Brant Secunda. It was an 8-day retreat, and he's who I studied shamanism with for a little over 20, almost 25 years now, and boy, it was like nowhere else. We were right on the Yellowstone River, just outside the park, kind of, and I lived in Boulder, so I was used to the Rockies there, but this was like something really special. We went in. I actually got to see Old Faithful do the blow thing. That was pretty cool.
Was it right on time?
It's used to be every hour. Now it's every hour and a half ish. It's slowed down. Everybody when they get a little older, they go a little slower. So
That's true.
Yeah, it's all about digestion, right?
There's a whole lot of imagery of that I just will gloss over.
yeah, I'll have to chew on that one for a while.
Yeah.
There's a reason they call it Big Sky.
Yeah, yeah. And Mark's the Zen master, and I think Montana's the Zen state. I think it's just so spectacular.
Yeah.
Were you in the Big Sky area, Mark?
We flew into Bozeman,
Okay.
which I think Big Sky's right outside of it. Yeah.
Okay. It is a pretty special state for scenery. Is that how does that rank in all the different places you've been to, Mark, in terms of scenery?
One of the top for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't think there's anywhere I've been that's had as much diversity of nature going on with the animals. Maybe Costa Rica, but that's a whole different scene. But as far as mountain life, with goats and buffalo and deer and elk and just mind blowing.
Yeah. Hey guys, Danny, I'm gonna just step away for a second here. I'll let you.
It's Seton. I'm not sure if I just noticed or if you just popped on. Seton Claggett from Trisports is joining us. Seton, we're just having we're live right now, just so you know. We're having a little chat, and we're trying to get to some questions from anybody who's in the chat roll right now, and we'll get rolling with our little pre-roll film in about 3 minutes, and show will kick off after that.
So, is there a place we can see the chat roll?
If you go to the and this is for the
live
people
one
who are on the panel, if you go to the chat, Spencer put it up in there. So if you just open another browser window and paste that in, just make sure you mute the video window that it plays in.
So just open up the live link?
Yeah, however you want to do it. So let's see, if there's anybody else checking in. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this last name, Bettina Schnippenkotter Warnholz.
Oh, I know Bettina. Hi, Bettina. It's wonderful to have you on the call.
Did I get that
Hey, Bettina.
correct?
Yeah, she's from Phoenix, the Phoenix area.
Okay.
She's a great triathlon coach and has some great athletes
Oh, great.
and does a great job for the sport.
She and her husband Gus.
Yeah, just a great couple in the sport all together.
I was down there before Ironman Arizona last year, giving a talk to their triathlon club, and done it a number of times over the years, many years actually.
Good. Okay, guys. You know what? It's about that time. You're going to see a short little film that we at Endurance Films produced, and this will sort of whet your appetite for the kind of things our illustrious guest, our guest of honor, is gonna have to say tonight. And why don't we just take a look at that? I'll tell you a little bit more about it when it's finished. So who's in the control booth? Take it away.
A lot of people will go to the places where it's comfortable, but I think greatness comes out of taking yourself to the places where you might struggle, where you might see the biggest doubts come up that you've ever had about your own ability, where you are pushed way beyond any limit you felt like you could handle. But when you put yourself in those environments, you have the opportunity to really learn something that you would have never learned in those comfortable places, and to rise up to a level that you never felt maybe that you were capable of, and to do it in the most unlikely of circumstances. By 1995, I was at 5 Ironman victories. I had this idea in my mind, if I could win one more, that would tie the record that represented the best in our sport. David won 6. And a lot of people were kind of thinking, gee, if you can win 6, then maybe you should try and win 7 and, you know, be one step up. And I thought, you know what? For one reason that I don't think I want to do that is because I respect Dave Scott. He was a huge rival, but at the same time I respected everything that he did, and I didn't have that feeling like I needed to one-up him. But the ultimate reasons were a little more personal. I was 37 years old right at that point. Going into my final Ironman, I kind of pulled the last bit of tricks out of the bag to try and help myself get better. And I knew when I lined up on that start line in 95 that win, lose, or draw, that was going to be the best Ironman performance I was ever going to be able to put out there. And I thought, I don't need to come back after I've given my best. And I knew that no matter how that race turned out, it was going to be, I would feel complete.
All right, to be continued indeed. Well, that's the official start of our hangout tonight. My name is Danny Colker. I'm a host and producer with Endurance Films. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm really looking forward tonight because we have a very, very special headline guest. The video you were just watching is an excerpt from a very special film series Endurance Films will be bringing you soon. It's part of a very new and exciting direction for Endurance Films as a company, something that will enhance and streamline your ability to access our industry-leading video training resources whenever you want them, wherever you are. So keep an eye out on your email box, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff, and we'll let you know when we're rolling out. So this film, the excerpt of which you just saw, a triathlon story, will give you unique insight into triathlon and includes the perspectives of some legends of the sport, perhaps the greatest of which is the reason we're here tonight. Mark Allen is a 6-time world Ironman champion, and a couple of years ago in an ESPN poll, he was voted greatest endurance athlete of all time. He's a colleague and a friend, and it's a pleasure to have him headlining tonight's panel. Now, what makes Mark so great for anybody who's had the pleasure of meeting him or seeing him compete or hearing him talk is not his ability as an athlete, but his singular competitive mentality. Something that when you hear about it, you'll know transcends sport and has application to every aspect of life as a whole. His new book, The Art of Competition, is a narratively compelling and visually dynamic illustration of this and is the inspiration for tonight's discussion. We're also joined by world-renowned 6-time Olympic and international run coach, Bobby McGee, as well as the founder of Total Immersion Swimming, Terry Laughlin. I don't know if I've seen Terry on the screen so far, but he was supposed to be here, and hopefully he joins us soon. Also sitting in on the panel in the equipment corner, we have Seton Claggett, founder of Trisports. The moderator for tonight's discussion is Sam Cook, founder of Triathlon Research, and now we're all eager to get rolling and hear what Mark and everybody else has to say. So, Sam, go ahead and take it away.
Hey, Danny. Just want to say it's great to be here, and this is a show that I've been looking forward to doing for a long time. I know over the past year we've built up quite a community of triathletes who show up and have heard a lot about running and swimming and cycling and a lot of different very technical and valuable coaching but advice. But I think the thing that I've taken away from all of that and knowing Bobby here, a great friend and mentor of mine, is how the mental side of the sport. Bobby likes to say, I think probably the preeminent mental skills coach in the world of endurance sports. Bobby likes to say that your body gets you to the starting line, but your mind will win it. You know, and everyone who's on the starting line, especially at the level he's coached at in the Olympics, has great fitness, but it's really the mind that wins a race. About 80% of racing, according to Bobby's estimation, is mental, and I think probably no one better to talk us through that side of the sport is Mark Allen. So I'd like to go over 3 things with Mark tonight and get his comments, going over some quotes in his book, which I just read, and it was an amazing book and really made me think. And one of the things that struck me was how brief it was in terms of the words, and how long that must have taken him to write. I think it was Voltaire said, "I'm sorry I wrote you such a long letter because I didn't have time to write a short one." And I'm sure this was a labor of love from Mark as he's built this book. But we'll go over that with some sample quotes, talking about 3 main themes. And then after that, we're going to go over the art of competition specifically. What is it? Show a few previews, pages of it. And then finally, talk briefly with Seton Claggett and Mark and Terry about a camp that Mark's going to be doing later in the summer live, where he'll be talking about these principles, as well as signing his new book. So, Mark, welcome, and just wanted to thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Sam. Very excited to be here. A very illustrious lineup you got on the screen. Terry and Bobby, and of course Danny and Seton.
Yeah.
Lot of people who've been paving the way for folks and helping grease the wheels on the performances. Yeah.
Well, Mark, I think one of the things that really struck me, you and I did a podcast recently, and when I was with the guys over at Endurance Films filming that clip, that's just one of many great insights you gave into the sport. What really struck my mind was, I think the first principle I'd like to talk about with you is quieting your mind. Most people race, and I think one of the things you talk about is you think way too much while you race, and that brings me to another paradox, which is we think way too much racing, but way too little while we're training. And Bobby and Terry, who really teach you how to be conscious while you're training of all that you're doing, you know, are teaching people how to switch on their minds, and you talk about how to switch off your mind. Talk about that for a second, and then I'm going to go into some of the quotes from your book that get into this point.
Well, you know, a lot of people try to adopt a really positive mindset when they're racing, and you know, come up with ways to trigger just that really positive focus, so that hopefully they don't get sucked into the other side where, you know, your mind starts questioning what you're doing out there, and you're doubting your abilities, and I didn't train enough, and the guy ahead of me is too strong, and my legs are hurting, and I've got this blister, and I can't overcome all this stuff. And all of a sudden you realize that all of that chatter going on is not helping you put that next step in place that will take you to the realization of your dreams. And you know, I saw this personally as in such a potent way in the Ironman, especially during the first 6 years that I raced there, where I could be in the lead. I could, you know, one year I was 12 minutes ahead of Dave Scott off the bike. I lost. Another year I was 5 minutes ahead with 10 miles to go. I lost. You know, and the part that was faltering was just that, you know, that space between the ears, that all of a sudden when it got harder than I thought it was going to be, and it didn't look anything like my pre-race visualization, I started to fall apart. And thinking takes energy. You know, they've proven this. Thinking takes energy. You know, you put out energy when you run. You put out energy when you think. So finally, in 1989, I was able to kind of get to that point where all of a sudden I was able to just get the chatter to be quiet. And when I was quiet, all of a sudden I realized I had all of this energy. And I had the energy that I needed to go to take the next step, and the one after that, and the one after that. And if you can quiet your mind, if you are feeling bad, it won't affect you. And you don't have to have a thought that helps you feel good because you're fully engaged in what you're doing. And when your mind is quiet, this is so essential in moments that are very critical, could be turning points in your race. You may not, a lot of times the solution that comes that will take you to that victory or that great personal performance is not logical. And if your mind is quiet, then those answers can come that will help you to continue to stay engaged, to find that peaceful place where everything is moving and you're not thinking anymore. It's priceless. And I think a lot of people get there when they finally just surrender and go, okay, whatever it takes. And then you can just feel everything kind of just go, and then you have access to that internal energy, that internal strength. You have access to all that training, fitness that's inside your body. Things loosen up because you're not restricted by the negative thoughts. And people can practice this in every single training session that they're in. When you're out there on a long swim, a long bike, a long run, you start to feel that, you can hear that mental chatter going on. Take that breath. Okay, there it is. There's the quiet place. And the more you practice that in your training, the easier it will be for you to find that place in the races when the result is going to be a big payoff if you can do it.
Yeah. Well, and Mark, I think it's really, I think a lot of people are going to ask, and this is something I've asked you to show at our camp, is actual exercises to quiet the mind. So I'm really interested in, maybe a little bit later we'll have some questions along that. But let me just give a few quotes along these lines that really struck me as I was reading the book. The first one is calmness. Look for calmness within first, and once you find it there, look around and you will see it everywhere. Where did that insight come from, and go a little bit deeper in that?
Wow, who wrote that? That is good. I can give an example from the last Ironman that I did in 1995. I came off the bike 13.5 minutes behind the leader, Thomas Hellriegel. I was 37, he was 24. 13.5 minutes gap to close meant that I had to gain 30 seconds a mile every single mile of the marathon if I was going to catch him at the finish line. Nobody had closed that kind of a gap. Nobody had won at age 37 at that point, and I was trying to win my 6th title in 6 starts, something that even Dave didn't do. So I had 3 levels of impossibility facing me. A mile and a half into the marathon, I felt so rotten that I didn't think I would be able to finish. And my mind went crazy with all the stuff that wasn't going to help me out. Hellriegel is so far ahead, I should just quit, I should never come back, I should have stopped at 5 victories, this is crazy. And it just seemed like everything around me was absolute chaos, and there was nowhere I could look, to my left, to my right, inside, outside, that was giving me any kind of peace or answer to how I was going to close that gap on him. And then finally, I just stopped, inside, took that breath, and it took about a half a mile, but then I could feel that quiet come, and it started on the inside. And once I was quiet inside, then it felt like everything around me had a certain calm to it. The race was still going on. There was thousands of people cheering, but somehow there was a calmness and peace within all of that chaos. And that was where my focus began to dial in. And then the answer came. Just take it to the finish line. Get to the finish line. And I made that commitment. I said, yeah, hey, maybe I can't win, but I can get to the finish line. And literally in the instant I made that commitment, I moved from 5th place to 4th place. Greg Welsh stopped in the middle of the road 10 seconds ahead. He stretched his back. I passed him, and all of a sudden the whole thing opened up, the whole world of opportunity. But it really, it's like, if this place inside here is calm, it doesn't matter what's going on outside of you. Nike had this great commercial years ago. One of their top marathon runners, they showed him running through the streets of New York City. Taxis honking, people running in front of cars, screeching, yelling. And then the view of the camera went inside this runner. And it's like he was a bird that was soaring. And it was peaceful and calm. And so on the inside, there was this calm. And you could see the way he was running was calm, even though outside was this wildness. And that always stuck with me, that image.
Great. Another quote I think that will really kind of bring some of this out, that you had self-confidence. Self-confidence is housed in silence. It has no voice or thought, only readiness to take action.
We're all searching for self-confidence in the moments that count in life, whether it's a race, a business meeting, a tough conversation you have to have with somebody that you're intimidated by, whatever it is. There's something that has meaning for you that you're approaching, and you're on the brink. And you need that little boost of self-confidence so you don't fall into the internal chatter, the self-doubt, all that kind of stuff. Self-confidence is in that quiet place. Because like I said, when you're quiet, like you're in a race, you can feel lousy, it's not going to affect you. You don't have to feel good to be having your best performance. And if you're running smooth and fast, cycling smooth and fast and strong, hey, you're going with it. You stay fully engaged. In that quiet place, in that is your self-confidence, which is your potential. When you're quiet, you can sense your potential. And it's sort of like you're almost looking at a film of yourself, because it's there, but it's like, hey, I feel good just being alive, being in this event, being in this chaos, having this challenge. It's like you embrace the entire experience as opposed to having a result be something that you're grasping and holding on to as your anchor to keep you going. Instead, all of a sudden you become immersed and you embrace the entire experience of what's going on, the challenge, the pain, the discomfort, the tiredness, whatever it might be. You embrace it, and somehow it helps you feel alive. So it starts by being quiet. In quiet, there's your self-confidence. Self-confidence connects you to the full experience of what you're doing, and when you're connected to that full experience, you feel like, yeah, okay, here I am. Hell Regal's 13 and a half minutes ahead of me. So what? I'm going to try and make up an inch or a second every single step, and let me just see what happens. And then this amazing possibility unfolds in front of you, and you are just, you're like an actor in the play. You're just along for the ride.
Yeah. And Bobby, you are probably the endurance coach that has done some of the most mental skills work, both in your self-education and with athletes. And over six going on, 7 Olympic Games here, what have you seen along the principles Mark's talking about? Chatter on racing.
Kill it, Mark, kill it.
It's gone. Whoever it was is disconnected.
It's an absolutely fascinating question. And over the years, Mark has been a huge inspiration to me when I was in South Africa. I think we're pretty similar in age, but I only started with triathlon in '85, but I'd already been coaching for a number of years by then. And you go through, if you do the formal training of sports psychology, excuse me, formalized training, you're looking at a lot of research, and you're looking at a lot of models that researchers have created to prove or disprove certain theories. Whether you're talking about dissociative thinking or whether you're talking about internal dialogue. And nowadays with their ability, the new sports psychologist that we're working with, the one that I'm working with at the United States Olympic Committee, she's not even called a sports psychologist anymore. she's a psychophysiologist, so she's looking what's going on in the brain when an athlete is functioning well and when the athlete is not functioning well. And so at the heart of that is, you know, whether it's Mark Allen or whether it's Arthur Lydiard, they set the standard which the sports scientists follow, and, you know, invariably prove that they are correct. So obviously research in sports psychology is very difficult because the whole nature of individuals that are comfortable with the uncomfortable and that are willing to push themselves so close to their homeostatic barriers, you know, borders, voluntarily, you know, they put themselves in this situation, you know, with the full intent and knowledge that they know it's going to be, you know, very, very challenging, as opposed to an adrenaline rush from speed or something like that. So it's a very singular community. And you know, one of the realities is that if you trained with Mark, or you saw how Mark was through to the course of his years as a Olympic distance triathlete, you know, people often forget, you know, that he was the world's dominant Olympic distance triathlete as well. Even though it wasn't draft legal, it was still those same distances. And if you look at how he trained, he was attached to process. He was never really attached to outcome. And then when he did display outcome behavior, you know, with Brandt and through that process of discovering what he discovered in '89 in that race, it just goes to prove that similarity of internal dialogue that he was capable of accessing at his calm moments. He then found that magical ability to do that during races as well. And I think one lesson that I've taken away from just this part of the conversation with you, Mark, is the fact that you are able to do what very few people can do, is in the calmness of their living room or in their motor car, they are able to access this calm. But on race day, when it starts going at 100 miles an hour and they get outside that little pocket, that little envelope, that little calm place that they need to be in, they have an exceedingly difficult time to come back. And so it's almost like I'm posing another question, is that in and of itself is a skill, not only knowing about the calmness and about the sweet spot and that place where there's very little consciousness and just allowing yourself, you know, your fitness and your skills and your ability to come to the fore by getting out of your own way. But once it gets derailed, and I know you got derailed a couple of times and didn't get it back, but eventually you figured it out and always got it back. So, you know, I basically pose another question for you.
You know, it's a great entree into a conversation I had with an athlete just recently at a camp. He said, you know, I've read your last book, Fit Soul, Fit Body, and I've been trying to practice the quiet the mind thing because you say that's so important. And he said, you know, in my last race, I was able to get my mind to be quiet. But he said, but my legs were still killing me. And I said, I never said that if your mind is quiet, your legs aren't going to hurt. It just won't affect you. And something else that people forget, or maybe that I forget to mention, is that, you know, you start this, like you said, on your couch in a very calm environment. Get yourself to be quiet. And you can do that like if you're watching a sunrise, a sunset. That's something that Brandt would have us do, is just go witness something in nature where you just go, wow, look at that. And when you go, wow, look at that, your mind is quiet. You forget about your credit card debt, your deadlines at work, that you missed a workout yesterday, whatever it is. So practice it in a calm environment. Then practice it in your training, when you're actually moving, when you're actually doing your sports. Practice it in your speed sessions when they start to get uncomfortable. Practice it in your long workouts when you start to get tired. And the more you practice it in your training, it becomes a place that you bring yourself back to when you feel yourself drifting. And then when you're in the race, come back to it and expect that you're going to have 1,000 times where you're not in that quiet place, where all of a sudden the chatter starts up, where all you can think about is the pain in your legs, or that you're tired, or, you know, whatever it is. But you bring yourself back. And that's the big key. You'll never be in that quiet place the entire race, the entire swim, bike, run, marathon, cycling event, but you can be in that place 1,000 times over the course of that day, and that's what will create a great performance.
I think, hearing you put different spins on the same theme is so refreshing, because I think the memory is at least 20 years old for me of the moment that I think you said it was at 13 miles when you looked around and you said, you know what, if this all falls apart right now, I've just swum, 2.4 miles with the best, triathlete the world has ever seen. I've just cycled 112 miles with him, and now I've kept up for 13 miles. How neat is this? It's all good if it goes down the tubes right now, and then to me that has always encapsulated that for me.
Well, Bobby, I wanted to just bring that back to a point we're about to get into is, Mark, you talked about, you have this wonderful quote in your book about desire and letting go, two paradoxically essential ingredients for victory. And really, I think this is one of the most fascinating parts of what you talk about in the book is if you want something so bad, you can literally kill that thing that you want. How do you get around that? People who are triathletes are so type A and they're so driven. In fact, I'm having all these conversations with people who want to come to the camp, and they're all talking about their goals. And I just can't wait for you to come talk to them and say, here's how to achieve those by letting go. And they're all so excited to hear you just talk about this at your speech at the dinner we're going to have. And talk about how to let go in order to get that which you want so bad. And process-oriented versus outcome-oriented.
Yeah, if you have a big goal, you're going to need a certain amount of strong desire to keep yourself in the rhythm of the preparation that it's going to take to get there. If you don't have that desire, you're going to get derailed really early in the process in the journey of preparing for that big event or that big project or whatever it might be in your life. So desire is sort of like the magnet that gets you going, that gets you engaged, and it keeps you on track a lot of times in your training when maybe if you didn't have that much desire to achieve that goal, you'd let it go. You'd skip the workout or whatever. But then in the race, there's a point when it's the big turning point. There's a lot of little turning points where you back off or something could happen, but there's usually one big turning point in the key races or key performances in your life where your desire, that need to achieve it, is holding you back because it takes energy to hold on to that desire in that point, at that critical peak moment of your performance. The best ultimate performance happens not because you have such a desire to achieve it, but because you had the desire to prepare. Now you're in the moment, and to cross that threshold into actually embodying what you set out to do, you have to just go, it really doesn't matter if I get there or not. And when you can say that, it still will be great if you can do it, for sure. But you're also willing to just maybe not get there, maybe fail if your performance isn't up to what it needed to be, but you're going to engage fully and completely regardless of that impossibility or of how that scale might look to you in that moment. You let it go. That happened in 1989 with Dave. I was, like you said, I was with him on the swim. We were together on the bike. We ran side by side the entire marathon up through the half marathon point. We're on the Queen K Highway, which is, it's a big road on the west side of the Big Island of Hawaii. We're in the lead of the race. We are on a pace that's going to set a world's record, shatter his previous world's record. One of us is going to win it. He's either going to win number 7 or I'm going to win my first. And I wanted it so badly, but it wasn't enough. And he was surging, and I was tiring, and I could feel the desire was getting stretched to the breaking point where it wasn't holding me with him anymore. And then something just said, it doesn't matter. It's like Bobby just said, I realized I'm with the best guy in the world. There's nobody else giving this guy a run for his money. There's still 13 miles left to go in this marathon. Something might change. And my mind just went quiet. And literally in the instant that my mind went quiet, I could feel possibility come back. And in the instant my mind went quiet, an image of an old Huichol Indian shaman that I had seen in a magazine 2 days before, a 110-year-old Indian, Don Jose Matsua, came back to me, and the guy, and I just thought, you know what? That old guy, 110 years old, he doesn't need to win an Ironman to feel good about his life. You know, he had this beautiful smile, and suddenly it was like I was just happy to be there. I was in the race with the best in the world. There's 13 miles to go, and I let go. I let go of that desire, but then I could feel the possibility shift, and it started to come back. It's a paradox. It's not easy to do. Sometimes we just can't let go of that last little noose that's holding us back. If you can, then you truly do create the possibility that something amazing can happen.
You know, Mark, that it reminds me of you know, so many things in life. You can fumble a speech or you know, any kind of moment because of your nerves, and I guess it just, you know, if someone's listening out there and you think of how many times in life you've had a moment where you just kind of psyched yourself out, I guess you're just talking about it on a big scale in triathlon.
Yeah, you know, the big moments, probably if you talk to every single athlete who's crossed that threshold from knowing that they're so close to winning or so close to setting that record or so close to having the performance of their lifetime, but they fall one step short, it's because they couldn't let go. They couldn't just fully engage and just be there in that moment. If you're in the moment of every step that you're going through, suddenly you are part of the rhythm of the race, and the rhythm is part of you, and you sort of almost, you're not connected so much to what's going to happen at the finish line, because what's happening right here, right now, this is perfection. This step that I took just now, that is perfection, and the one after that, that is perfection, because I'm fully engaged. I've let go. I don't need that finish line thing to happen. I'm in it right now. And that's when the great performance is. You're free. You can feel everything loosen up. Your breathing just gets more relaxed. You stop having to force yourself to push through the pain, because the pain doesn't affect you anymore. The discomfort is background noise, and you're just alive.
You know, it's so sublime. You know, just to hear you talking, Mark. I was the other night we were at a crit race where we stick the young triathletes in for them to get used to this criterium style racing, and one of the youngsters was doing really well. He was in it, and then he popped. But not only did he pop, he sat up. And you know, to listen to the coach say to him, there's a huge difference between popping and staying in it, and popping and then saying, oh, it's all over. You know, and that whole war cry of the endurance athlete comes up. You know, you will have bad patches and they will pass. And to me, that's the quiet, isn't it? That where it doesn't matter anymore. And I remember coaching Colleen DeRook in the Boston Marathon, where she dropped from 2nd to 5th at 5 miles, and she said, I'm having a bad patch, but Bobby told me they come and they pass, and so I'm really glad I'm having it at 5 miles, because I'm getting it out of the way, you know, because it will pass. And so, you know, that's a similar kind of thing. It's being at peace with how you're feeling, and saying it really doesn't matter. I'm still going to stay in it. I'm still going to stay committed.
Yeah, that's when you can function at 100% of your capacity. It is a paradox.
Mark, on that paradox, you have how you go over the line. You have a quote that talks about this: obsessiveness. Obsessiveness begins one step past the border, where commitment ends. It is excessive action that weakens you rather than strengthens you. So the point where you go all the way up to 100% and then you fall off the cliff. Talk about that. What causes you to go past your boundaries?
Well, it's not going past boundaries. Obsessiveness is, it's almost like a behavior born out of fear. Fear that you may not achieve your goal, that you may be less worthy than you set out to become. And I put that quote in the book because I've seen so many athletes, especially in endurance sports, who are living obsessiveness. They don't allow themselves rest. They don't allow themselves to have just enough training be enough. They go beyond, thinking that if I can do an extra 5 miles this week on the run and an extra 2 hours on the bike, then that'll get me where I need to be. Well, maybe it will, but if it's actually weakening your physical body or taking so much mental energy to fit that into your life within that certain week, it's become obsessive. It's weakening your overall being, and it's important to keep that in balance. That's something that I tried to feel like I was staying on the commitment side of the line throughout my career, because I'd seen a lot of folks just go and go and go, and they can never, at the end of the day, they couldn't even let go of their training. They had to talk about it and then think about tomorrow, and the next thing you know, they don't ever have any space to just breathe and to recover and to regroup and to rebuild and to absorb the benefit of all the good work that they were doing. And in the end, they never had the results they were after because of crossing over that line that separates commitment from obsessiveness.
Bobby.
Yeah.
I know you got something good on that.
Yeah, one of the dangers of triathlon, and Mark can attest to this, is that it allows for you, running is very, very hard activity versus, say, riding your bike on 110 psi wheels on a eighth of an inch flat asphalt road. It's sublime. And the same thing if you're technically proficient swimmer. Swimming is an extremely relaxing activity, and there's some triathlon coaches that say there's no such thing as an easy run for a triathlete. The runs just take more out of you, and that whole concept of obsession. If I think back on athletes that have come top 10 in the Olympics or even medaled in the case of London, and what my contribution was to those athletes from a mental side and even from a training side, it was actually a reduction, a realization that even with pacing, you can run right up against the maximum pace that you can run, or you can run in the middle of that pace and leave yourself space behind you and in front of you should you require that. And maybe it comes from age. And the lesson is always for a young athlete to learn the lessons that you need to learn proactively. Don't learn them by mistake, and don't learn them after you've passed your physical best. So history is full of individuals who had accidents or became ill in the weeks leading up to an Olympic Games or to a major championship, and then had the race of their lives, proving to themselves accidentally that they were actually overcooked. And I think Mark has a famous little talk that he gives about the acute or the precipitous taper, where you basically go sit on your butt and eat as many cookies as you can for a week. That's better than overdoing it by even 1/8 of a percent. So absolutely, a lesson that mostly age groupers need to learn is it's so easy to overcook yourself. It's so easy to start defining yourself as a triathlete, and when something goes wrong, suddenly, as Colin Powell said, having your ego so close to your position that when your position fails, your ego goes with it. I think that's a critical lesson. Yeah.
Hey, Terry, glad we're able to get you on. Sorry about the any technical issues you had getting on. We're on process versus outcome-oriented. And Mark just spoke through that, and you've had some wonderful insights. If you can get your microphone on, we've had some wonderful insights on that in the past. Terry, if you can unmute yourself first at the top of the screen.
Got it.
Hey, Terry.
Okay, now I'm on. So, well, somebody bring me up to speed. What have you talked about with regard to process and outcomes?
Well, we're talking about letting go of goals in order to achieve them. And there's no such thing as a perfect race, but I think what Mark just said is there's a perfection in the process. And I know that you're fanatical about process versus outcome.
Right. Yeah. My only goal on any given day is to enjoy my practice. And you know, I know from experience that what kind of things allow me to enjoy it. I like to do things that are measurable. I like to be working on the details of my stroke. I like to feel immersed in the details of my swimming, and as long as I feel immersed, then then I'm enjoying it, and what I'm immersed in all the time is the process of swimming as well as I can.
Well, Terry, you talk about you've won 6 national championships open water, but you don't measure yards anymore while you're swimming, and you've got to a very advanced state in terms of your relationship with the training.
Yeah, I'm peripherally aware of how many yards I'm doing, but I know I have an hour to train, and it's a function of aging, because my calves, if I'm in a pool, my calves will only take about an hour's worth of push-offs. So I know I have an hour to train, and rather than seeing that as an impediment or an inconvenience, I know from the time I get in, I have to make every lap count, and I kind of like the galvanizing aspect of knowing that I can't waste a lap. So that's one thing, and the other thing is, I know in open water racing, which is my métier, if you will, I know what it takes. I've been doing open water racing for over 40 years, and I know what it takes to compete well, to be essentially to win my age group in open water races, and everything I do in practice is to basically hardwire some habit, some skill that I know is consequential toward putting me in a better position to race, and yet, at the moment I'm doing it, I'm not thinking about the racing at all. I'm not thinking about the, a race that may be 3 months in the future or 3 weeks in the future. I'm thinking about doing something in that hour that at the end of the hour I will feel enormously fulfilled. I'll feel very happy. I'll feel energized in body and mind as a result of what I'm really looking to get into a flow state in practice. Fortunately, the things that put me in a flow state are doing things like creating problems to solve, and those problems have to do with maintaining a certain stroke length or stroke count at a range of different tempos and different distances, and I create problems that require me to be 100% focused. My focus cannot waver during the course of the set, or I will fall short of the standard I'm reaching for. And so that's really what I'm aiming for, because I know if I've been 100% focused and feeling purposeful on every lap, I know that I'm going to get out of the pool and just feel fantastic, and it's the addictive aspect of that brings me back to training over and over. And at the same time, as I said, those things I'm working on are things that certainly, when I'm standing on the starting line, I feel very ready for the race as a result of having done them.
Well, Terry, I really look forward to seeing you and Mark talk at the Boulder Reservoir about open water. I can't wait to see that.
I'm looking forward to it, too.
That collaboration. Hey, Mark, moving on to your last topic here. I'm really struck by, when reading your book, how much, triathletes are a very high-achieving crowd. There are a lot of, it's the new golf, they're calling it, because it's a lot of high-performing people are doing it.
The new golf, wow, okay.
Yeah, it's if only Michael Jordan would have known this back in his day, right? But
Right.
It's the high-achieving crowd is using it now as it's the fastest growing sport, obviously, because of really high-achieving, high-earning people are doing it, which means they've had a lot of success in their life. So the last thing I'd like to talk about is how you, in your corporate speeches, your corporate consulting, talk to people who aren't triathletes but you know, and then this is obviously a triathlon audience. How you get corporate executives to apply the principles in this book, because it's really not just written for triathletes to their success in life. So the first quote I want to just kick this discussion off with is inner peace, then outer results, not the other way around. Talk about how that applies to life in general, not just triathlon.
Inner peace, then that's sort of the start. Yeah, that's the starting point. That was similar to kind of just what Terry was talking about, of how he's in the flow. You know, if you're thinking you're worried about the outcome, it disrupts flow, and flow is anything that works in it's that state where everything is working at peak capacity without you having to think about it or make it happen. You just are part of you are part of something great that's unfolding, and you are the main ingredient that's happening with it. That is that inner peace place. You know, if you need the outer result first to then be able to feel like you have inner peace, you may never get it. You know, I need to win Ironman, and then I'll be peaceful inside, and then I can have my best race. Wrong. That is backwards. You know, I had to find that place inside that was peaceful, and then once that was calm, then that great result happened. And it's the same with you know, like in business. You know, a lot of times there's this expectation for a certain level of performance or achievement of sales, of quotas, of, you know, we need to produce at this level. Well, great. How am I going to get there? It's probably going to be very demanding. You know, the business environment today is very, very demanding. So the bigger the demand, the more it's going to take from you to achieve that actual level. And so getting to that highest level happens easiest when you can stop for a moment before you engage in that activity. Get yourself to feel that certain quiet or calm inside. And this is something that Brant has taught me over and over and over the years, to just find that quiet place inside first, and then engage with the activity, whether it's sports, whether it's business, whether it's you know, relationship building, whatever it is. Because when you find that inner place that's peaceful and go out in the world with that, it seems like everything just kind of falls in place. It's sort of like I said, the wheels get greased, and it just makes the process a lot easier. You don't need that outcome to make the inner peace happen. It's already there. You've already gotten the gold.
Yeah. And another quote you had along these lines, which I found really fascinating. I know, you know, there's nothing like a tough spot to make you focus, and you put it much better when you say use pressure to focus energy. I can't think of many things I've done well in life that haven't been as a result of extreme pressure. So I can really resonate with that, you know, in different things I've seen. Talk about that a little bit.
So in other words, you're kind of lazy naturally, and you need the pressure to get you cooking, right?
I really love deadlines, because if you wait to the last minute, it only takes a minute, right?
Yeah. So. You know, that quote is so simple, because it says use pressure to focus energy, meaning that turns pressure into something very positive that enables you to rise up to that level that is your best. And you know, peak performances, or peak big challenges that you overcome to put something great in place, obviously that's not necessarily something that you're going to want to do every day, because it might burn you out. But those little day-to-day step processes that we go through to get there, those are the day-to-day things that are great. However, when the pressure's really on, a lot of times we forget that we did those thousands of steps to get ready. The pressure diffuses our focus. It diffuses our energy. We get stuck in doubt. We get stuck in fear, and that's where our focus gets attached. And that is what holds us back in those big, big, big moments. But if we can give it a 180 spin and go, wait a minute, there's pressure here, but that's going to bring me up to my greatest level, allow me to put that amazing performance into play, allow me to access all of that preparation that I have done for this one day. This is what I committed myself to doing all that work for, so that I could be here now. And I'm going to use that pressure to help me stay focused. It's simple.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It's simple. You know, the simplest ideas are the hardest to implement. But I think I love the clarity of that quote that it gives me. And the last quote I'm going to give you before I open this up to the discussion with you, Bobby and Terry, is potential is a blank page. You must at some point either pick up the brush and paint, or close the book and walk away. Just really, really powerful. Talk about that for everyone here, and then we'll move on to the discussion.
Yeah, I love that quote. Who wrote that thing anyway? You know, we prepare for stuff a lot of times, but we don't just jump in and go for it. You know, we might say, gee, I could be good at this, or I could do that, and we're preparing and we see the potential, but we don't ever pick up the brush and paint. We just sort of stand there on the edge, and at some point you have to jump, you have to go, you have to leap off the cliff, because usually if it's a big potential and you see it has something that might have meaning for you, 99.9% of the time you're going to have no idea exactly how you're going to get there. You just know that you have to make that leap regardless of where you might land in the first step. And that's the thing where we have to just either pick up that brush and paint or walk away and go somewhere else. And I like to pick up that brush.
Yeah. Bobby, you've seen a lot of people with a lot of potential. What separates them?
You know, there's so many things that come up for me from what Mark says. You know, I admitted earlier before the show started that I was a nerd, you know, with Danny, and the other thing is I'm also completely into the, you know, the spiritual and the more esoteric approach, you know. And so if you look at the mean age of Terry and Mark and myself, you know, there's that danger that our young audience is saying, oh, just a bunch of old codgers who don't know what they're talking about. But, you know, we've all been worshiping at the same foot, or you know, of that process, that ritual that it takes. You know, so when Mark speaks about, you know, being in that journey, you know, I think about Arthurian legend. You know, so Mark is my Arthur of Camelot, because he knows the future because it's his past, and that's basically, you know, the process by which you can go into that. And so a nice illustration of that is I don't know if any of you have read the latest interview with Meb Keflezighi after winning Boston at age 39. He said he has no idea what his weekly mileage was. He did not do 40% of his second runs in a day, because he was just, you know, much more about staying healthy and getting to the start line, you know. And he threw the 7-day cycle out the window and trained on a 9-day cycle. And so much intuition went into how he ran that race, you know. And it's clear that from this interview, his training supported that, you know. He got away, he stayed away, and, you know, it fooled them all and came away with an American win in Boston after a long time. And it just echoes the exact lessons that Mark is putting forward, you know. So I think that the questions that arise for me, the questions that I'd like to ask people like Mark and Terry that are important is you know, the how. I know Mark spoke about the daily practice and starting with simple things and starting just on your couch and being quiet. But, you know, whether it's sitting practice or meditation, these things require unbelievable discipline, and this unbelievable discipline really comes from having a vision for that you know, white palette in front of you, that palette of possibility, and then, you know, just having the discipline to just go after it on a daily basis. But then Terry alluded to, you know, I remember that was true for my triathlon days, is that it didn't really matter how I performed. The process of training was for me a wonderful experience of centeredness. If I'd go out on a 120, 130K bike ride, it would be just me out there, So, and I think that with all the modern equipment and with the huge amount of hoopla that's going on with races today and how hard it is to get into them, etc., I think we are responsible for teaching the next generation that this is a sport for the ages, and it's an activity for life. It's an activity that ends up pushing you towards the best person you can possibly be, no matter what that endeavor is.
Terry.
Well, yeah, I've certainly had the experience of feeling pressure. Maybe not the same kind that Mark has had, because Mark was racing in a highly visible way. Those Ironman races with television coverage and so on. And I certainly am not presuming that he was thinking about the TV. I'm sure he wasn't. But it's a different level of visibility than my races. As you said, Sam. I've won 6 national championships. I started swimming at 13. I didn't win my first national championship till I was 55. So it took me a long time to get there. And then between 55 and 60, I won 6. And I have to say that the first one was quite special. But I've had races where I lost, where I came away with a much more positive memory of the race. That I felt fantastic about the way I swam, though I did not win, as compared to probably a couple of national championships where I wasn't really pushed in the race itself, because I'm winning my age group. I'm not winning the overall race, so it's not quite the same, and I might not have anybody near me or know that anyone is near me. So what I'm really looking at is the sense of being engaged during the race, the sense of being again in that flow state. One of the things I talk to swimmers about is about training yourself in practice to access a cocoon of calm, and you know how to do it because you always have a thought that is engaging you. You're not thinking about what's going on outside you, that during the race you're thinking only about what you're doing and not being distracted by anything that is not you. And so I've spent, I train solo. I don't train with a group, and so it's very easy for me to get into that habit, and then to get into the race. And then I'll find myself in a pack. And if I happen to find myself in a pack, I enjoy being in the pack. I enjoy having the people around me and doing things like looking around in the pack and seeing who's wasting energy, and smiling a little smile when I see someone else in the pack wasting energy. So it's really about concentrating on what I'm doing, and again, I'm as I said earlier and reiterated now, that I really look at my training as not really getting me in shape. I look at it as training me behaviorally, training me in certain behaviors and habits that are going to do well for me in the race, but more so because I simply enjoy being in the state that I'm in when I'm practicing those behaviors and habits.
Yeah. Well, I want to, Mark, we've got a bunch of questions here, and what I want to do is go to that. And so if you've typed in questions, we're about to move on to that. But before we do that, Mark, I just want to ask you quickly to go through the art of competition, what it is exactly, and because I know a lot of people are wondering where these wonderful quotes are coming from, and I'm going to share my screen a bit here so I can show a little bit of it. But just talk through the art of competition quickly, and where it came from for you, and where people can get it. So.
Great. Yeah. Well, the art of competition is the backbone of the book are 90 quotes that I wrote that give a different look or spin or thought process on what competing is, what challenge is, what personal best might be or mean to you, what that whole experience can bring to your life, and it goes well beyond using this in sports. You won't see one number in that book about training regimens or anything like that. This is about the human side of performance, of potential, of reaching across that gap of impossibility and fully engaging to achieve the impossible and the improbable. The quotes came to me they started to come to me actually when I was on a retreat in Japan with Brant Secunda. Again, Brant is somebody that I've studied shamanism with for over 20 years, and he was really the reason I was studying with him, was the reason I was able to win all of those 6 Ironman titles, because I had the missing piece that a lot of people never find, and that's the inner character building, the inner strength that finds calm in the midst of chaos, that finds the answers and the solutions to the impossible questions in the moments that count most. And anyway, he and I wrote a book together, Fit Soul, Fit Body, 9 Keys to a Healthier, Happier You, and we teach workshops with those principles. And one of the keys in that book is to go to places in nature and just immerse yourself, to feel the calm of nature. Like I said, I was in Montana last week, just immersing myself in that calm of nature. And I was on a retreat with Brant in Japan a number of years ago, and we were at Mount Fuji, and at a small countryside hotel, and I laid down for a nap on the futon one afternoon, and we were going to go to Mount Fuji on pilgrimage the next day, and right before I fell asleep, this quote sort of came to me that had to do with competing, but it was very different, and I thought, wow, that's kind of good. And then I started to fall asleep, and another one came, and another one, and another one. And I thought, geez, I better write these down. I might forget them. And over the course of that afternoon, that evening, and the next day, I had written down almost 50 different quotes and they all appear in the book. And over time, I assembled 90 quotes. But then I thought, what the heck am I going to do with these things? And I realized that these quotes came when I was in an environment that was very calm, peaceful, natural. And I thought, I have to pair these quotes with photos from nature. And there's a photographer here in Santa Cruz, Nick Borelli, who has, as you saw, amazing images that he's taken all over the world. And he really tries to capture how those places made him feel, as opposed to the actual, copying the exactness of what's there. He tries to give you a feel with those photos. So there's 92-page spread quotes where there's a quote on one page, and then you can see the photos that span across both pages. There's also a few other chapters where I've written on topics that we all have to deal with when we're going for the big goals in life, things like fear and change, and what do we do when we get stuck. And then the final chapter is called Art, and in there I talk about my bookend Ironman victories, my first in '89 and my final one in 1995. And I think it's perhaps the best telling of those stories that I've ever given. You can see more about the book at art-of-competition.com. You can pre-order the book. The books will be available in early August, but you can pre-order them now if you would like to make sure that you get a copy. There's 2 versions. There's a standard edition. They're both 10 by 10 hardcover. The second version is a limited edition. There's only 600 copies being printed ever. In there, I expand on 24 of the quotes and give my spin on what those quotes really mean and how they've impacted me and how they might impact you. And those are signed and numbered. They're a collector's piece. They're in a box set. It's really cool. Anyway, they're being printed now, and mid-August we'll have them there at the camp.
Great. Yeah, Mark, we've got a limited edition signed copy reserved for everyone at the camp, and we're limited to 40 people there, and we've already filled a number of the spots, so look forward to seeing those. And then also, I think you said that anyone who bought the book this week, even if it wasn't a limited edition, you'd sign it for them, right?
Yeah, I'll sign it and dedicate it. They just have to go to the website, art-of-competition.com, and check it out.
All right, good. So anyone listening to this, I think we got a button on the bottom of the page. Danny, if you can type the website into the chat roll. Also, just go pick up your copy before Friday, and you'll get them. You get it signed by Mark, and we'll send those out as soon as they come off the print. Terry, and I just wanted to bring Seaton in here real quick. Seaton, say hello.
I'm still here. Hello.
Hey, Seaton's our equipment sponsor for the camp. Terry's going to be there as the swim coach. We're going to spend a day on each discipline, a day on mental skills. And Seaton, I'm going to have you give some talks on equipment. And also, you said you're working on some special deals?
Yeah, we're working with some of our vendors to bring some great deals to everybody, and hopefully I can bring some technical expertise to some of these widgets that we like to use. There's a lot of little things that make your life a little easier and help you get to that blissful place with your equipment.
Well, the key is using equipment to get you in the flow state rather than to distract you. So I look forward to that discussion of simplicity around equipment and having you give a talk on that. So
great. Yeah, I look forward to it.
And then Bobby, you're not able to join us for the camp. We just got that word later last week, but you recommended to me someone who's coming, Jay Johnson, and he's bringing one of his U.S. champion athletes with him, Sarah Vaughn. So thanks for that. I just had a great conversation with Jay. Tell us why you recommend Jay as a running coach.
Oh, Jay is the complete coach. He's got the heart and the passion side of it down, but he's also, technically brilliant. He understands running, and he's really a master of the details. Mark very graciously wrote a prologue for a little book that I've done previously called Running Sports Essentials, and that's one of the areas where he really is an expert on the little details that you require to run really, really fast, and also one of the converts of the concept that running is as much a skill as as swimming and riding your bike is, and so a wonderful teacher and a really good resource that will make a huge difference for people attending the camp for sure.
Yeah, Jay is. I was looking at his stuff and talking to him, and he's bringing two of his athletes with him. Sarah Vaughn, I think she was a finalist in the last Olympic trial, so she'll be out there helping the athletes. And we'll be also working with Boulder Running Company and Retools. So really looking forward to that. Bobby, maybe next time we'll get you at a camp. I know how busy you are during the season. We'll have to schedule something in the out season or somewhere where you're a little bit less busy. So, hey,
thank you.
Danny, let's get to some questions. I think Mark's really opened up some great questions. We're past the official show time, but we're just going to answer questions now and kind of let it go because I think there were just so many good ones. And Terry and Bobby, as long as you can stay and help answer these, that'll be fantastic.
We're about 5 minutes from reruns of Murder, She Wrote coming on late night TV. But
I think these guys can compete with that. So
okay, I don't know. Angela's pretty hot these days. So let's go. You know what? Dave Kellerman's had a question for us, and I think it pertains to everybody. And what he said was, I think we've all been in the moment, which I would assume to be in the zone, and that's the moment that Mark's talking about, that moment of the quiet that you find your potential in. But how do he has problems bottling it up. Any tips from Mark or Bobby how to isolate that feeling and bottle it for the future? Maybe to really hone in on what that feels like so you can recognize it when you get to it.
You want me to go at it first, Mark?
Sure, go for it, Bobby.
I happen to know Dave, and Dave is an unbelievable inspiration. He's he's just broken through. I think he's done 2 Ironman races, and he's just truly an inspiration to the community that he competes in. And Dave, so the thing that I try and teach individuals, and some of this I picked up from Mark too, is to just take mental snapshots, and not only snapshots of what you're seeing visually, but of your entire experience. How expansive you feel in your chest, that entire sensation, and just recalling thoughts that you had, people that you've spoken to, circumstances that you utilized to lead up to that moment, so that you have some keys to re-access that. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi in his book Flow speaks about that concept of the flow state being very hard to access, and some individuals like Mark have mastered the art of doing that, and I think it requires some very specific practice, but also tools and pigeonholes where you put these experiences in, and when you recollect them, there's certain key thoughts that lead to you having a much better chance of achieving that state.
You know, one of the things that people ask me a lot in training camps and elsewhere is, how much should I train? How much should I run? And there's a lot of different answers to that question, but one of the answers that I always give is run until you feel better. Run until your mind is quiet. Run until you stop thinking about your problems and worrying about things. And, you know, I feel this shift every time I go out for a workout, whether it's running or surfing or anything. There's that moment where you go from being attached and worrying about everything and thinking about everything to just all of a sudden you're out there. You're noticing the trees. You're noticing the air. You're feeling your rhythm, and everything is just in that flow. And time starts to pass very differently. That's one of the things, like Bobby was saying, you can stash it away for later. Be aware of times where all of a sudden you realize, wait, 5 miles went by on the bike and I don't even remember them. You know, that's when you're in that peaceful place, and when you're in that place that's quiet. And again, just practice this over and over and over. It doesn't have to be when you're working out. It can be when you're sitting at your desk. It can be when you are working on a project and all of a sudden you feel yourself, you realize, wow, for the past hour I have been totally engaged in what I've been doing. You know, that creativity is happening, that flow is happening. I've forgotten about everything else. I was right there. And that's the space that you're trying to get in, where your ultimate performance will come out of. And, you know, the more you're sort of aware of remembering those moments and helping yourself get in them when you are training, the easier it will be to re-access those when you're in the race.
I can add something on flow. You know, what Csikszentmihalyi defines flow as is truly an immersive state, and I had one accidental flow experience in a college race when I was 18 or 19, and that was it until I was well into my 40s, and then as I moved into my 50s, I realized that I knew how to access a flow state in almost every practice. And as a consequence of being able to do it so regularly in practice, it became, first of all, it became my primary goal in practice, and it became something that happened very regularly in races as well. In fact, I can recall many races that I was so much in a zone of enjoying the race itself that I was really sorry when I saw the finish arrive. But for me, what creates that flow state is really keen awareness. And I've trained myself to pay such close attention to both the feeling, that's very subtle feelings in my stroke, and subtle feelings of how I'm interacting with the water. So that's a truly immersive thing, when you're just focusing on your awareness, and the laps are just flowing by, or the race is going by, and suddenly there's the finish, and as I said, you're a little bit sorry to see it.
Thanks, Terry. You know, the other question, I think that one particular question, those series of answers, covers quite a lot, the spectrum of the questions we've been getting. The one question that I will, let's close this with, we're about 10 minutes over, and we should close it out, sort of deviates from the rest of them, and that's from Christian Alvarez. And what Christian wants to know is, how important is external motivation, support groups, family, friends, in preparation?
Well, I'll take this one because I relied a lot on my external support. You know, endurance athletes look like it's this individual journey a lot of times, like you're the one out there doing it, and on the race day, yeah, you are the one who's in the event. However, I know personally that it took a whole support crew to be able to put that kind of effort together. And part of it has to do with gaining access to experts. You know, you can't, as an athlete, I couldn't be an expert in nutrition. I couldn't be an expert in sports psychology, in cycling mechanics, in running mechanics, in swim technique. But I could surround myself with all of these people who were, and draw from their experience, draw from their knowledge base, and then meld it all together into that thing called a triathlete. And so I think that external support is very, very key to having your best performances. Then also, you know, if you have family and you're doing endurance sports, you know, you probably put them on the sideline a few times to get your workouts in. Remember them when you're in the race. Draw upon the effort they put into your being at the event. When it gets tough and you might want to back off or quit or go, oh, I can't do it. You know, the last Ironman, I was ready to quit a mile and a half into the run, and then I thought about all the people who helped me to get there and who put their best effort out so that I could be at my best. If I quit, there's no way I could honor their effort. But if I could stay in it and keep going, that even if I didn't win it, that would at least honor all of that work that those people did to help me to be prepared to have the possibility of being an Ironman champion.
All right, thanks, Mark. You know, we're about getting close to about 15 minutes past our scheduled stop time, but I want to thank everybody who's been on there. This has been a really special hangout for us. I want to thank Sam, Triathlon Research, for putting this together. Bobby, Terry. I'm glad Terry finally got on there. He added some pearls towards the end there, and Seaton for being on here, and especially Mark. Mark's got a lot of demands on his time, but I think what we've heard is invaluable. And I wanted to let everybody know that Endurance Films has a very special new direction. I think I mentioned it at the top of the broadcast that we're taking our company. It's something that's going to really empower you to get the video training resources you need anywhere, anytime. And as we kick off that new direction we're taking our company, we're going to be airing some very special films, a series of films that we've done, and a lot of it features Mark and really goes into detail. We let Mark really expound on what a lot of the themes he's been talking about today. He talks about his first Ironman win. He talks about his last Ironman win, the mentality it took to do all of that, along with a whole lot of stuff. We interviewed Bobby, and Bobby gets into everything that just makes him great, along with a lot of other people, Andy Potts, a whole lot of people at USA Triathlon. And so make sure you opt in. Sam will be sending out ways for everybody to opt in to see those great films that we're putting the finishing touches on right now. So with that, we're going to play the film that we played at the top of this, where Mark talks about his approach to that quiet space in your mind and greatness, and also he talks about his last Ironman win. So with that, we'll close it out. Let you watch that film, the excerpt from the film, I should say. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and thanks to our panelists.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. We'll do it again.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
A lot of people will go to the places where it's comfortable, but I think greatness comes out of taking yourself to the places where you might struggle, where you might see the biggest doubts come up that you've ever had about your own ability, where you are pushed way beyond any limit you felt like you could handle. But when you put yourself in those environments, you have the opportunity to really learn something that you would have never learned in those comfortable places, and to rise up to a level that you never felt maybe that you were capable of, and to do it in the most unlikely of circumstances. By 1995, I was at 5 Ironman victories. I had this idea in my mind, if I could win one more, that would tie the record that represented the best in our sport. David won 6. And a lot of people were kind of thinking, gee, if you can win 6, then maybe you should try and win 7 and, you know, be one step up. And I thought, you know what? For one reason that I don't think I want to do that is because I respect Dave Scott. He was a huge rival, but at the same time I respected everything that he did, and I didn't have that feeling like I needed to one-up him. But the ultimate reasons were a little more personal. I was 37 years old right at that point. Going into my final Ironman, I kind of pulled the last bit of tricks out of the bag to try and help myself get better. And I knew when I lined up on that start line in '95 that win, lose, or draw, that was going to be the best Ironman performance I was ever going to be able to put out there. And I thought, I don't need to come back after I've given my best. And I knew that no matter how that race turned out, it was going to be, I would feel complete